Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2017. I know. I know. It seems like, wow, how did we get here? Out with the old and in with the new. Today we're going to set the stage for all that we desire to experience in 2017, and we will end with our White Stone Jerusalem Stone ceremony. I'd like Rich right now to get the bowl of the stones and pass them around while I talk, and so that you can be looking and picking out the stone that speaks to you. We'll send the pins around and after when we're ready to do the ceremony. And I just want to give you time because I don't want to rush you. And you can take a card too if you'd like, which talks a little bit about them. But first, I want to lay the groundwork, hence the title of my talk today, which is Laying the Groundwork. So who has had one, two, or a list of New Year's resolutions?
I made 10 this morning.
10, wow. Okay. Who has ever had a New Year's resolution? Okay, we've all done that, right? How did it all work out for you? Did it?
Sometimes good, sometimes not so
Well, New Year's resolutions usually have something to do with changing something to make our lives better. And usually we work at it for a while and then we forget and we go back to our old ways. We get back into our old habits and patterns. Often for a change to stick, we have to experience a tipping point. But let's look at the difference between a tipping point and a turning point. Tipping point or turning point? We've all heard of the idea of a tipping point, the moment when there is enough critical mass for a major change to occur. In fact, there's a book called The Tipping Point. In today's world, it's often used to describe where we are globally, particularly with our environment, right? If we tip too far in one direction, of just toward destroying Mother Earth, for example, we may not be able to get back on track. And that's definitely a concern, and it's what I want us to explore this month, not necessarily that specific thing, but we tip so far one way that we have a more difficult time getting back. The idea of turning points, those moments of decision, those moments when we individually or collectively decide to make a shift, to head in a different direction, to view things another way, and to accompany that with a new behavior. This is what we're looking at doing with a turning point. Perhaps your being here this morning is a turning point for you. If so, I applaud you. It's wonderful. And the results of turning points are radically different outcomes. They can be radically different. Or said another way, turning points result in different tipping points. This month, supported by the strong foundation of our Science of Mind teachings, we will have a personal turning point and many personal turning point moments that will tip us in the direction of greater love, peace, joy, and manifestation, which really can have an impact on our entire world. Because when our lives improve, it doesn't just affect us, it affects the entire world. Today we lay the groundwork and set the tone not for this month, but for the entire year. So I'm so glad that each and every one of you is here with us today. Julie McIntyre, the director of the Center for Earth Relations, once said, "There comes a point when you know without a doubt, without hesitation, that you cannot go back to your old life. You cannot be who you once were and also have a new life." We've all experienced that, right? And that point is a turning point. So on this first Sunday of this new year, at a time when individual and collective turning points are so important, we're going to take 5 perspectives on life and look at one way of viewing them, and then turning points ways of viewing them. So here's your mission. Identify where you are with each of these. Some of the old views may no longer be your views. You may have already fully and completely embodied the turning point view. If that's the case, take a moment today to just celebrate that. It's a way to do it. You're going to be invited into really putting them into practice in your lives in this month and in this year. On the other hand, there may be, some of you may think, I wish I had that new view. I'd like to have it. I know I'd be happier if I had that new view, and I'd be healthier too, but I simply just don't. I may have it in my head, but it hasn't made that 18-inch journey down to my heart. How many of us have so much in our heads, and it's hard to bring it into your heart? right? Those are the ones I want you to pay very close attention to today. Those turning point views are the ones that are yours to pick up, try on, and this month work on installing into the foundation of your belief system, because they can, no they will, send your life in a very different direction. So let's get going. We've talked about Pam Grout's E cubed, old view versus turning point views this past year, and they really fit well with our message past year that we're talking about with this morning. So starting with old view number 1, which is, do you remember when we talked about the old views? God is judgmental. He's that man outside of who I am, determining whether or not I'm worthy, kind of a judging sort of person, and saying, you know, I'm not worthy of, well, maybe anything, right? This is the God to be feared, and I have to be very, very, very good to gain favor with this God. I have to beg, I have to plead, I have to bargain with this God. God's punishments are meted out here and in the afterlife. Boy, it doesn't just all happen here. You have something to look forward to after you die, right? God is some far off being that is separate from me and may or may not respond to my prayers. Maybe if I promise certain things, maybe, but this is that one viewpoint. This is the view that a lot of the world has. This is the God that is separate from our being. And many of us grew up with this type of teaching, didn't we? And some of our teachings are churches that we attended when we were children. I know I did, definitely. Being raised a Presbyterian, I had the sense that God was out there, was not in here. When I walked into a religious science church for the first time, it was a defining moment for me. It was a turning point for me to discover that there was a different way to view God. And the thing is that when I heard it, I knew it was the truth. I knew it right here. It was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. I don't know if you've all experienced that when you walked into a New Thought church, but that was just amazing. Turning point view number 1. God is an energy of love and creation that flows through all, sustains all, surrounds all, in fact, is all. The energetic world is a world of love, and it is the foundation on which all else rests. It is the building blocks that form everything. How's this for a turning point view? Does that feel good? I think it just feels so good to me. In the words of Ernest Holmes, he says, God is the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. The Spirit is incarnated in everyone, and all people are incarnations of the one Spirit. There is an eternal goodness, eternal loving kindness, and eternal givingness to all. And this is from what we believe, which we have out here, but we'll talk more about that a little later. Another old view, number 2. The world is a scary place. Who was raised to think that? You know? Yeah. Our job is to put on our armor and work like heck to stay one step ahead of the terrorists, the super germs, the dysfunctional stepmoms, you fill in the blank. What were you afraid of or told to be afraid of? The boogeyman. That was really scary when I was a kid. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was scary. I didn't want to go into a dark hallway at all. Oh my goodness. Didn't help that my dad jumped out and went boo either. In this world, in this view of the world, our job is just to survive, just to have the bravery, the courage to survive. You know, it's kind of the life sucks and then you die. You know, that's the anthem of that old view. And I suspect that every single one of us can name at least one person who has that view. You may have gotten past it, but you know when you're talking to somebody who has that view and you just feel your energy going like this. You just know that is just not where you want to be, right? The question this morning is that person you? Is that person you? Turning point number 2. The universe actually has our backs and is constantly conspiring. Oh, I love that word, conspiring for our good by sending us blessings and gifts and guidance. Like Emma Curtis Hopkins says, this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me, and I demand to see the blessing in it. I mean, life is for you. Our turning point view says that we live in a cooperative, user-friendly world. and that no matter how it may appear to the naked eye, life in its pure, unadulterated form, without our life sucks and then you die consciousness laid over it, is a bubbling cauldron of possibilities composed of pure and perfect love. What if this idea were actually true? Again, the words of Holmes, the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that you are sure to attain this goal. You are sure to attain this goal. What if you had that as your view? Would that be a turning point view for you? On to old view number 3. Life happens to me. Life just happens to me. I'm an innocent bystander, a pitiful victim of circumstances, of, the weather, of disease, and worse, of my own dysfunction. External events constantly get in my face. The best I can do is just to learn to cope with these external events. But turning point view number 3, life emanates from me. Life doesn't happen to me. Life emanates from me. I create my world with my thoughts, my beliefs, my energetic frequencies, that vibrational thing, right? This turning point view is that God operates through a universal mind, which we call the law of God. And we are surrounded by this creative mind which receives the direct impress of our thought and then acts upon it. Our thoughts are things. Our thoughts are powerful. And the more we learn to stay in control of what it is we are thinking, the more we have the possibility to create what it is we desire. It is in our power to affect the conditions and the circumstances of our lives through the power of this mind. And I will say, when they started doing the World Peace Prayer, I'm going to say 30 years ago, at least, that was at 4 a.m. Anybody do this yesterday morning at 4 a.m.? Okay, well, this is when the Universal Peace Prayer, when they started doing this, it was amazing. Amazing miracles happened. The Berlin Wall came down. Russia basically dissolved. It's just amazing, all of the things that happened. And they've kept track of them. And we're powerful. We are so powerful. We can heal the sick through the power of the mind. We can do amazing things. From the Science of Mind, page 30-31. We cannot say that one thought is creative while another is not. We must say that all thought is creative according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. Ignorance of this excuses no one from its effect, for we are dealing with a law and not with a whimsical fancy. Isn't that good to know? It's good to know that our God is not whimsical out there going, okay, you get it, but you don't. No, we are dealing with a solid law. If you had this view, really had this view, how would you live? How would you live? Perhaps you would be like Joe, the shoe salesman, sent with another shoe salesman overseas to scout out new markets. Their first stop was a country where everyone was barefoot. The first salesman sent back a telegram to the home office saying, leaving tomorrow. This is an impossible market. No one wears shoes. Joe's telegram was very different. He said, great potential market. There's absolutely no competition. If reality is our doing, then we have the power to create a life we love living, just like Joe. And all we have to do is give up our belief in deprivation and lack, our belief in separation, which takes us to old view number 4. No pain, no gain. How many of us have heard this? No pain, no gain. Go to the gym, work till it hurts, right? No pain, no gain. We've become so accustomed to living in the life sucks paradigm that it never occurs to us that another reality, a happy reality, is possible. Pain, loneliness, and fear are the context within which we live our lives. We're so conditioned to wallow in misery that the concept of life as a joyous adventure seems impossible or even unnatural. But there's a different way to view this, and that is turning point view number 4. There's no reason to struggle. Once we let go, surrender to the universal flow of life with a capital L, right? Yeah, L. We'll take. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we'll take over. I'm doing a mirror image here. We'll take over and handle the details. Pam Grout, in her book E Cubed, wrote, "Every moment we waste on worst-case scenarios undermines our ability to create the true and the beautiful. Every moment we spend worrying erects a block between us and all the signs and opportunities, and yes, the blatant love that is here for the sole purpose of our enjoyment. Here's a turning point thought. Heaven is actually within us, and we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. Heaven is within us, and we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. And now on to our final old view number 5. I'm not worthy of a good life. I'm inherently flawed, inherently bad. And this could have come from our old religious teachings, perhaps our upbringings, or a variety of other ways. But this old view must be jettisoned. Think Star Wars. Jettison that garbage chute, or whatever they do, the little pods. Jettison that garbage pod. All of those beliefs, stuff it in and just send it out. I'll tell you. Turning point view number 5, my worthiness is not at stake. It never has been, it never will be. There is nothing required of me to be worthy. I am worthy simply because of who I am. The truth of this is your soul, your spirit, your destiny are all a part of the one life, the life of God. So, remember our power position? Who remembers our power position from, anybody? From one of my talks earlier? All right, stand up and get in the power position. Come on. This is what you do before you go in for an interview, right? There we go. All right. And say after me, I am worthy.
I am worthy
Of, fill in the blank. Love, prosperity, happiness, abundance,
love,
friends,
peace,
well-paying jobs, whatever. Let's do it again. I am worthy of
prosperity,
happiness.
health. Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. You can sit down. So the crux of our morning is this. You have a choice as to which views of life you want to live. The old views or the turning point views. You have a choice right here and right now. And remember, when you're doubting what you want to say with your affirmations, do it in the power position. I want to share with you a story, a true story, of a guy who knew about the power of choice and who embodied these 5 turning point views and what happened to him even when faced with a pretty challenging experience. It was related by a friend of his, Francie Balazar Schwartz. So Jerry was always in a good mood and always had something positive to say. When someone would ask him how he was doing, he would reply, "If I were any better, I'd be twins." Jerry was a manager in a restaurant business, and a unique thing happened with him. He had waiters following him around from restaurant to restaurant. Why? Because of his attitude. He was a natural motivator. If an employee was having a bad day, Jerry was there telling the employee how to look on the positive side of the situation. Seeing this style really made me curious, so one day I went up to Jerry and asked him, "I don't get it. You can't be a positive person all of the time. How do you do it?" Jerry replied, "Each morning I wake up and I say to myself, Jerry, you have 2 choices today. You can choose to be in a good mood or you can choose to be in a bad mood. I choose to be in a good mood. Each time something bad happens, I can choose to be a victim or I can choose to learn from it. I choose to learn from it. Every time someone comes to me complaining, I can choose to accept their complaining or I can point out the positive side of life. I choose the positive side of life." "Yeah, right. It's not that easy," I protested. "Yes, it is," Jerry said. "Life is all about choices. When you cut away all of the junk, every situation is a choice. You choose how to react to situations. You choose how people will affect your mood. You choose to be in a good mood or a bad mood. The bottom line is, it's your choice how you live your life." Soon after that conversation, I left the restaurant industry to start my own business. Jerry and I lost touch, but I often thought about him when I made a choice about life instead of just reacting to it. Several years later, I heard that Jerry did something you are never, never, never supposed to do. He left the back door of the restaurant open one morning, and as a result, 3 armed robbers held him at gunpoint. While trying to open the safe, his hand shaking from nervousness, slipped off the combination. One of the robbers panicked and shot him. Jerry was found relatively quickly and rushed to the local trauma center. After 18 hours of surgery and weeks of intensive care, Jerry was released from the hospital with fragments of the bullet still in his body. I saw Jerry about 6 months after the accident. When I asked him how he was, he replied, "If I were any better, I'd be twins." Want to see my scars? I declined to see his wounds, but I did ask him what had gone wrong through his mind what had gone through his mind as the robbery took place. The first thing that went through my mind was that I should have locked the back door. Then, as I lay on the floor bleeding, I remembered that I had two choices. I could choose to live or I could choose to die. I chose to live. Weren't you scared? I asked. Jerry continued, not at first. The paramedics were great. They kept telling me I was going to be fine. But when they wheeled me into the emergency room, and I saw the expression on the faces of the doctors and nurses, then I got scared. In their eyes, I read, "He's a dead man." I knew I needed to take action. "What did you do?" I asked. "Well, there was this big burly nurse shouting questions at me." And said Jerry, "She asked if I was allergic to anything." "Yes," I replied. The doctors and nurses stopped working so they could hear my reply. I took a deep breath and yelled out, "Bullets." Over their laughter, I told them, "I am choosing to live. Operate on me as if I'm alive, not as if I am dead." Jerry lived thanks to the skill of his doctors, but also because of his amazing attitude. I learned from him that every day we have the choice to live fully. Attitude, after all, is everything. Choice is all there is. So this month, for the next, 30 days of the month, starting now, I want each of us to choose to put on the turning point views in new ways. Those that already have, it's time to take them to a deeper level. There's always room to be better, right? How does it get any better than this? There's always room to be better. Those that have not yet embodied, this month is the time to do it. This month is the time to do it. So here they are again. Remember each one as you choose the word or words that will be your guide, that you will write on your stone, your reminder for 2017. Turning point view number 1. God is an energy of love and creation that flows through all, sustains all, surrounds all, in fact, is all. Turning point number 2. The universe actually has our backs and is constantly conspiring for our good by sending us blessings, gifts, and guidance. Turning point number 3. Life emanates from us. We create our world through our thoughts, beliefs, and energetic frequencies. Turning point number 4, there is no reason for struggle. Once we let go of and surrender to the universal flow of life with a capital L will take over and handle the details. Turning point number 5, our worthiness is not at stake. It never has been and it never will be. There is nothing required of us to be worthy. We are worthy simply because of who we are. For those of you who have been in religious science for a time, you may have heard something in what I've said this morning. Did any of you catch it when I was going through our creed, basically? They are pieces from our declaration of principle of what we believe. And I want to share all of them with you right now as we move into the Jerusalem Stone White Stone ceremony. So, have each of you chosen your stone? One that speaks to you? I have it. I'd like you to hold it in your hand hands as I read our declaration of principles, what we believe. So close your eyes if it's comfortable for you, if you'd like, and just take these in. I'm going to make them personal statements, and you can make them yours. I believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. I believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in everyone, and that all people are incarnations of the one Spirit. I believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. I believe that heaven is within me and that I experience it to the degree that I become conscious of it. I believe that the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is surely to be attained by all. I believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. I believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. I believe that the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of the individual, and that any person who lives in close intact with the indwelling God may become a revealer of truth. I believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through universal mind, which is the law of God, and that I am surrounded by this creative mind which receives the direct impress of my thought and acts upon it. I believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. I believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. I believe in my own soul, my own spirit, my own destiny, for I understand that the life of all is God. And so with these beliefs, let us fly into a new life, a life of God-filled love, peace, joy, and plenty. As you hold your white stone in your hand, know that you are starting with a clean slate. This stone is from Hebron, Israel, and allow yourself, as you hold it, to feel the energy within the stone. You feel it? This white stone ceremony is an ancient ritual. In biblical times, when someone served in prison or in bondage of any kind, they were given a white stone when they were released. Each of us comes from bondage today, and we've been given a white stone to signify our freedom. White metaphysically represents joy, victory, and purification. The purified state of consciousness of knowing that the Father and I are one. I invite you now to consciously allow the activity of God, Spirit, Universal Mind into your heart and mind, and focus for the next few minutes, and allow the word or words that will guide you in 2017 to be made known. When you have your word, write it on your stone when you are ready, and we'll pass out some pens to do that. So let's take just a couple of minutes to do this. Suzanne has pens. If you need a pen, just raise your hand. Would you like a permanent marker? We've got. Yeah.
Okay. You want to just pass it around?
Sure. That'll hold well. Here, Susan. Oh, you need it. Okay.
If anybody else needs one?
Are we done? Got our words? Okay. From this moment now, anytime you look at your white stone, realize that you have the gift of choice to connect with Spirit and to co-create the life that you desire to experience. Always remember that it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It's already done. Our job is to accept it. Accept this consciousness of ever increasing good in your life and carry your white stone as a reminder of this promise. And so it is.